Hey everyone, welcome to my first internship podcast. In today's episode, I'll be talking about my experiences as an undergraduate student intern at South City Central and Xavier University Grade School. Oh, but first, some introductions. My name is Princess Reyen B Tan, but my friends call me Princess. I'll try to keep the episode short for you people with short attention spans like me, so stay with me for just 10 minutes. I hope that's cool. First, let's talk about my internship experience off campus. Now, my major is special needs education generalist, which means I can handle kids with special needs from kinder to the elementary level. And I had the privilege to experience a SPED classroom for the first time in my off campus internship. I started off pretty rocky though. At the first 3 days, I had to be absent because of trigger warning, horrible infection in my leg. So I tried my best to make up for it when I finally came in. And oh boy, was I in for a new experience. I felt like everything I learned was thrown out the window. I had to adjust to their needs since they were all unique, and it was really hard at first since we never got to do this in our third year like we planned. But once I got the routines down, it was more or less smooth sailing. I had kids with autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, developmental delay, and a mix of those too. It was an adventure every single day, and the things they would do were all up in the air because anything could happen. There were even times we had to chase after a kid who escaped, or carried kids who were having temper tantrums, or even kids that couldn't write or speak. I had never been around people with disabilities before, but I told myself that these were kids and they deserved a teacher who would make an effort for the sake of their education. So I had quickly grown attached to the kids, and the teachers were super nice too. It was definitely better than the grade 2 classroom I handled after, though. Because all of my experience was online, I never get to practice classroom management, and they definitely needed managing. It was only morning classes, but it felt like a full day's work. Every single time there would be kids picking on each other, which often led to a lot of them crying. And most kids didn't have enough support from their household to even know how to read the alphabet. It was really sad. And it was definitely a huge challenge. And I felt like giving up more than once. But still, I managed to make it through somehow. And the teachers there were so supportive. So if you're listening, I'll never forget you, Teacher Irish and Teacher Lady Lynn. Then a few weeks later, we started our in campus internship. They didn't have a SPED classroom, so I was assigned to a regular 6th grade class as opposed to my preferred lower grades. But boy, did I not regret that assignment. In the mornings, I observed a grade 5 class, and in the afternoons, I assigned 6th grade. No ill will at all, but the difference between public and private schools were incredibly apparent once I got there. It took a while to get used to the names, but I eventually got the hang of it. The kids were such sweethearts. They quickly got attached to me who, even though was 10 years older, was more like an older sibling to them. We had a lot in common, and I treated them more like someone their age, which they greatly appreciated. The 5th graders were a little more difficult to handle, but I pulled through somehow. I definitely feel more comfortable with 6th graders though. My demo had also gone with little trouble, and I even got to experience practicing my student rearing during the sports fest since I had to wrangle two sets of kids in place of an intern who wasn't around most of the time during the event, for valid reasons. It was honestly so fulfilling watching them slowly open up to me. The pressure of a private school was high, but I persevered despite how turbulent my mental health was. But at the end of the day, I was definitely happy with the results of my labor. My cooperating teacher played a huge part in keeping me mentally stable during the whole thing. Although she didn't have any classes in my section anymore, she still made it a point to visit and check up on her class and me during recess like we were family. I took a huge weight off when she said I was doing well and entrusted me with certain things for class. Overall, despite the many, and I mean many times I wanted to give up and give in, the experience I had as a student intern were definitely the most important and meaningful ones to date. It was hard, sure, especially since we barely got any breaks with the licensure reviews every Saturday and sometimes Sundays, but I didn't give up. The reason I kept going isn't all that noble, but it was something that anchored me, so it was still important nonetheless. Well, that's it for today's episode. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much with my story, but I hope you enjoyed listening to it. Remember to hydrate and take care of yourselves. I'll see you around. Hopefully.
It was just starting to drizzle as I walked out the door, but I've delivered papers in the rain like that before. 3:30 in the morning, I was happy as a lark as I grabbed my bike and rode into the dark. I pedaled through the neighborhood, the weather on my mind. The wind was picking up and howling louder all the time. The sky turned like a cauldron and the distant thunder roared, and I knew that I was in for quite a storm. A little rain never hurt no one, so I kept pressing on, and I tried to tell myself it's always darkest before the dawn. Lightning struck an oak tree as I leapt off my bike. The siren started wailing, but there was no good place to hide. I knew without a doubt there was a twister touching down, so I crawled into a culvert to wait it out. The little bit of courage I had left was almost gone, but I tried to tell myself it's always darkest before the dawn. And then the nightmare started, it got deafeningly loud. Every fiber in me screamed out, but I couldn't make a sound. The whirling of a vortex, a violent carousel. It sounded like a freight train was dragging me to hell. That was when I saw my family with my eyes shut real tight. Would they know how much I loved them if this was how I died? No, I vowed I'd not be murdered by a monster in the sky that night. But if I went home to heaven, at least that's where I'd belong. Yeah, I tried to tell myself it's always darkest before the dawn. So I kept hanging on. I kept hanging on. The shadows slowly melted as I was hunkered down. Till at last the worst was over, the storm was dying out. I crept out of that culvert and I went weak in the knees, cause what I saw was a somber sight to see. There was nothing but destruction and wreckage in that town. Cars were upside down and houses leveled to the ground. A twisted trampoline was hanging from the power lines. I blinked a tear back cause I felt lucky to be alive. And that was how I learned to live, when you can run but you can't hide. How to feel trapped in a tunnel but come out the other side. Cause with all the stormy weather in the world, you learn to take life one storm at a time. You don't have to be afraid. And now when there's bad weather on the way, I stay calm and I keep hanging